Humans and nature. I have been a muse to them both. Yet they know nothing of me, of who I am, of what I love. I am a global phenomenon, a key player within the world's leading industries. Over the last few years, my friends and I have single-handedly provided this world with over 6.4 billion. 6.4 billion of what, you ask? I knew that number would grab your attention. My skin, of course. My life. My resources. 6.4 billion tons of bovine leather. For I am a cow. I sometimes wonder, would humans look flawless, naked with zero life signs after a life well lived?
Hello, we are back. Thank you very much for sticking around. We're coming up to our panel number 2, and Marielle is going to be hosting that. So everybody can go ahead and turn their cameras on and their microphones and say, hey, so we can hear you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Yes. Fantastic. So take it away, Marielle.
Thank you so much. So hello, everybody, and welcome to the second panel session of Activating Communities. We're going to talk about digital activism to mobilize sustainability with all these wonderful change makers. But first, let me introduce them. Sika Schmitz, she is a writer, a speaker, and a stylist. And she's an activist in sustainable fashion. We're tuning in from LA, California, right, Sika?
Actually, outside Seattle, but yeah, West Coast.
Okay, that's what we wanted to make sure. She's combining mind, body, and closet and bringing a holistic approach for living mindfully. You are the founder of Beat and Real, and also a mindful living community and creator of Impact Fashion Show. She's been featured in different magazines, the Style Journal, Build a Magazine, and The Good Trade. I also would like to invite over Kim Gerlache from Europe. She's connecting from Berlin, and she's been working in sustainable fashion, starting with a blog about connecting people with the style and fashion, and now she is part of a conscious sustainable fashion consultancy called Sun and Rise, blending sustainability and fashion in an aesthetically pleasing and daring way, which I love. And now we're going to go to Sweden with Josefie Liljevis. Josefie is an impact fashion tech designer, and she is also the founder of Responsible Systems. She works everything around improving animal protection and creating awareness around the subject on traceability. And she has been featured recently in Forbes. Congratulations, Josephine. And she is a footwear designer who has exhibited national and international as a painter and as well as a designer in stages such as Neonit. And last but not least, we have Lisette Soto-Rivas connecting from Berlin. And she is the founder from Bohetnica, an ethical brand that she will tell us a little bit more. She manufactures with Mexican artisans, and she works with more than 200 artisans group in the south of Mexico. Liz is also a digital marketing strategist, and she is the art director of Slow Fashion World. So welcome, everybody, and let's get started with the first question. I don't see the presentation because I should be having it, so let's see. We activate the presentation now. Start. Excellent. So I would like to ask the first question of how, in the case of activating citizenship at this moment during the current confinement, how is Lisette Soto connecting and inviting citizens to take an active part in sustainability?
Well, basically, we do two ways to raise this awareness. No, the first one I think is through virtual education or online education, which is basically our own storytelling, and offline with events and experiences. For example, with Slow Fashion World. So through digital and social media platforms, we try to educate our consumers to acknowledge and appreciate all the work that is behind the production. No, in this case with us, because we work with artisans in Mexico. So I think we are always looking to share traditions. We're always trying to people to know what the story behind the clothes is, and of course the story of each indigenous community that in the south of Mexico. And well, so we provide this storytelling, connecting our culture and informing our citizens or consumers or friends that when they are investing in this kind of clothing, artisanal clothing, they are also investing in culture. So of course we are a clothing brand and we want to sell, but more than that, we are always trying to provide a value through our clothes, and of course a preservation of my artisan Mexican culture.
That's interesting. So when talking about education with you, Josephine, how do you invite from your end citizens to take an active part in sustainability for animal protection?
Well, I would say it correlates much with what we recently talked about when it comes to education and storytelling. But I say one thing we do with our footwear, which is our first product, is that we put a traceable code on the products. And when the client has actually received the products, they can decode this one, and then they figure out which animals are behind it. So they basically get a virtual tour back to the farms, and they can learn about the farms and the farmers and their ideas around sustainability. So we're always trying to kind of invite them into what we believe is sustainability. And I think it's something that's super crucial, is that each and every person or brand, they need to define what is sustainability for me. And this is what sustainability is for us.
And you're connecting your values exactly with sustainability, storytelling to your digital platform. And in such case, I want to invite Kim in this aspect. As a digital activist, you have inspired so many people through social media and everything. And I want to know from this point, now stepping a little bit from a brand as an activist, how do you invite citizens to take an active part in sustainability? We don't hear you, Kim. Turn on your audio.
Apologies, can you hear me?
Now we do.
Perfect. I see whatever I'm doing for individuals just to be a connector of things, because to me activism is slow, is fast, is immediate. We can be activists out in the real world. We can be activists digitally, what we're talking about today. It can be thoughtful, it can be written, and basically I'm doing, well, aesthetic things for myself. That's what I figured out, but I'm presenting a lot of different opportunities on my social media. So you as an individual jump in to whatever activism speaks to you. So I'm basically sharing information of whatever suits you intuitively in order to use your voice.
That is so interesting, because now we're talking about the aesthetics of sustainable fashion, which is very important, especially now when we're telling stories about brands and about the projects that bring impact. And talking about this and building experiences and going into conscious living and fashion with impact, tell us, Zika, from your point as a catalyst and a community connector, how do you invite citizens to take an active part in sustainability?
For me, it's really about making sustainability personal. And I mean that both personally to me. So I share a lot about my own journey, my own choices, and how sustainability impacts me. It's not just about out there and what's happening out there. It's really about like my actions and my choices, and then encouraging everybody in my community to find what part of sustainability is personal to them. Because the reality is sustainability is so huge and broad within fashion and even beyond fashion, that there is some part of it that touches all of us. And so to me, it's really make it personal, find the piece of it that really connects to you, that speaks to you, that impacts your life, and then go from there.
That is so true. So we're going from inwards to outwards. And in order to build the stories, take sustainability from your values and connect also with the type of your personality and spread it out, especially at this moment, inviting them to connect with their own perspective. So this is great. Let's go to the next question then. When we talk about digital activism, each of you, I have learned about your work. You've been building experiences offline, but also online. So how far do you think, at least, these online spaces can go on for driving sustainable fashion forward? Audio, please.
Sorry. Always happens to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the first thing, I'm talking now about me as a art director of Slow Fashion World. I think the first thing we do is co-create with like-minded change makers as an agency. And well, that help us to reach more experiences, to help to promote new ideas and maximize great projects, doing a positive impact in fashion. So I think it's really worthwhile to continue driving all these virtual spaces, as we have done, have been doing this since 2017. When I met you, Mariel, for example, we actually made through before it was NEAT, it was Ethical Sustainable Fashion Week. So, because of more of the 70% of the experiences we're doing in Slow Fashion World has been done under digital connection. So I think that's very, very important. And we can confirm that actually this is under digital connection. You see, it's amazing what we're doing. So basically we need to collaborate, to co-create and think as a community for impact. And that's what we're doing, you, Mariel, Susana, and all the team, and me in Slow Fashion World.
That is great. So we're thinking about the still feeling as a community that need to gather together under the same objective. So Kim, how do you do it when with your work with Neonit and working with Mimicry and working with those amazing organizations that are leading sustainable fashion forward?
Yeah, so what happens is that twice a year at Neonit, the global hub, we are bringing influencers, activists, people of media together into the real world, and then face-to-face meeting. This is only happening twice a year, and throughout the year, we are still active in whatever activism and shape we're doing it. And to also answer the question of how far can digital activism go, in Germany, we've been able to actually change legislations. This was outside sustainable fashion, but the taxations on period products was lowered to 7%, which is also the one for medicine and basic food supplies, because we thought period products should be accessible the way medicine is as well. And it just took people to sign a petition within 30 seconds online, and all of a sudden we're able to change governments. So I think this is the power of us connecting here as well. And there's a petition online now, it's called Fair by Law, in order to make German companies comply with what's happening in their supply chain. And that's pure raw activism right there to me.
That's incredible. And connect this type of raw activism. I go with the pioneer for animal protection. Josephine, tell us, how far do you think online spaces can go in driving sustainable fashion forward for you?
Well, I don't think there are any, end to how long we actually can take digital activism and sustainability. For example, if we just take something that maybe not sustainable, but like TikTok, that grew very quickly, and it's something that everyone is involved with. And I think something when it comes to communities, that's very important, since everyone is currently, due to COVID-19, we need to, stay at home, we need to stay safe, we're becoming more digital. So we're meeting people digitally in different ways than just a couple of months ago. And I think what we need to focus on now is, in order to be sustainable and to grow, is also to focus on empathy and sympathy. So we need to take all the values that we're using in our everyday life, when you're meeting with your friends and family, if we were to meet live, we need to take those values digital. And I think that is the beautiful, digital activism, is when we try to put values and emotions into it, really great things can happen and will happen.
Empathy and sympathy, that is so beautiful. Sika, from your end, being a yoga teacher, working with mindful communities for action, how far do you think those online spaces can drive sustainability itself forward?
I think we're so fortunate to live in a time, where we're so connected through the internet. I think it's such an amazing entry point for people. It's so much easier to send and receive information and to find out about different things. In any other era, I don't know that we would have had as many people involved in sustainable fashion as we do now, because they simply wouldn't even know about it. So I think digital activism is amazing, but I think it's really important to not stop there. That it's not enough just to use hashtags. You actually have to live it, to bring it into your life, to bring it into your actions and choices. So digital activism is a step and a part and a really important one, and I'm so grateful we get to use it. But don't stop there. Don't just put it out on the internet. Bring it inside too.
That's amazing. We talked about raw activism, how your voice can take action. We talked about the values, empathy. That was a very important word. Right now in this confinement, we all need to have that, and do not stop only being digital, because after this we need to go louder and connected with our values. I really, really love this one. So when using technology and social media platforms to mobilize your own communities, I want you now to take the part of mentors and give us some tips for the audience. What are the best practices from your work list as a digital marketing professional?
Okay, you can hear me, right? Okay. Well, what I can share from my experience is that building communities as an immigrant entrepreneur has helped me to create new collaborations and also experiences. So I developed, communities to unite people, and based on the same interests. So, for example, I have a Facebook group. I'm the administrator, and I have more than 6,000 Latinas. Or for example, I connect also with my embassy, with this, the association, Mexican Germany Association. So all this helps me to understand the needs and desires of our community. And that helps me to build conscious products and services to add value to the society. So, and last but not least, of course, in my work as in slow fashion was to connect people, both local and immigrants, to exchange all this information and values. So, and this, we achieve this through all these experiences that we have been creating together, the pop-up stores, conscious talks, experiences, events. So all this is our passion, so to unite people and to conform an inclusive community in fashion.
That's so important, being diverse, inclusive, and emerging talents, and also look up, of course, for the pioneers and get together, because that's where innovation happens. Kim, from your end, I have to say again, a fan of your work with social media platform mobilizing communities. Please share the tips, because here it's so important. I want to hear, how do you drive these communities in the digital space?
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about 3 different things. So the first one to me that's really important is be authentic. Just be yourself and find the channel that's working best for you. As I said, I work best to show visuals and try to be inspirational, be personal, and that's how people can hear to my sayings and what I'm saying. So just find the channel and just be true to yourself. Then, with that being said, have fun with it as well, because otherwise you're going to stop. You cannot build a community online or offline if you don't enjoy the work you're doing. And then also, to me, it's important to not only look at quantity in terms of how many followers do I have, or how many people do I have in my Facebook group. 6,000 is great, but if there's only 2 active and engaged, well, what does that bring us then? So I'm not assuming that it's like that in your case, definitely not, Liz, but try to build relationships and try to build them strongly and intimately and personally, and that will make us grow even if we're less people, but more powerful.
And that's the
fun, authenticity, and quality more than quantity.
Exactly. Now that is the shift. People are looking more for connections rather than statistics and numbers. So, but when we talk about Josephine's work with animal protection and transparency, for me that was something new when I met you. For innovators working under technology, Josephine, and those entrepreneurs that want to drive in as in a space that not everybody is involved. You know, you have touched areas that people sometimes do not even connect. We're talking about people, we're talking about planet, but what about the animals? So how can you give us some tips on how mobilize communities? What are the best practices for your work to share with those people?
Yes, of course. I think one of our best practice, I'm going to take an example that we're working on because it's very much on fusing digital with physical world.
Yeah.
So what happens when you are like 1 week roughly before you're getting your footwear, you can go online to our membership area, and there you can choose where you would like to collect your footwear. So we collaborated with a few restaurants that we think have very high standards when it comes to sustainability, animal protection, or just super passionate, beautiful people. And then the clients can choose to collect at these restaurants instead. And at restaurants, they get a little treat. And they, of course, the restaurant or owners or the colleagues, they tell, why our shoes are collected at this place. So for me, it's very much about inviting them into our universe, sorry, like our universe, like what is this world about? Like, how do we improve animal protection? Which world are we trying to create? And for me, it's about a fully functional ecosystem. And in order to create that, it needs to be, more fun to collect the shoe at a restaurant and just get it home with a UPS delivery. So that's one of the ways we're trying to kind of merge digital and physical, because I think that's where we create the best results for our clients, so they can tell the story for their friends.
And also you're creating experience from it. So that's quite important also, no? Nowadays, creating experiences for people is what really can connect your brand or your project, and in that sense be spread out as community, as we're speaking. So Sika, tell me, when you use social media to show your work for this holistic approach that you're using with think about your closet and building experiences and talking about living mindfully, what could be the best practice from your work to give out there to the audience?
To be totally honest, when you first sent me this question, I had total imposter syndrome, and I thought, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know my best practices. But I think when I sort of looked at what sort of works and what doesn't, at least in my many digital spaces that I oversee, I think Kim absolutely nailed it. A lot of it's about relationships. It's about connection. It's about making it personal, putting faces behind names and movements. I like to showcase a lot of, for my brand, I show myself, my own voice. When I'm working with the various sustainable fashion brands that I do through Beat and Real and Impact Fashion, I like to showcase the owners, the workers, the artisans. Really bring it back to people, bring it back to relationships. So I don't know that I have a really good answer, but I think it's just about relationships, connection, and making it personal. And using your own, like, not trying to outsmart it, just being yourself.
So what I love about this summary will say, be authentic. Build true connections, and also the content should be true to yourself in order to echo your values. And last but not least, it's all about the quality, but not the quantity. So be proud of the people that are following you, and always check out the people you admire to get some tips, but never lose the essence. Yeah. Okay. Did I miss something before? Just wanted to check. Wow. So, you know that this Express United 2020 and the San Francisco Sustainable Fashion Week International is truly connected to promote and activate the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And for me as well, it's so important to connect, for example, as a community with the Sustainable Development Goals 17, which is building alliances and connecting. In this case, I would like to start with Liz as a brand. As a brand, how or which of the UN SDGs address with the work you're doing with Bohetnica?
Well, I would say number 12. And that's, of course, as you mentioned, we are a clothing brand who works with artisans. So we always have to be aware of to give always the proper credit to the work. You know, it's a very important key for us, and we love highlighting always the work and the culture, right? So I think that will be the number one. I mean, the number 12, but the number one thing that we're always trying to focus on this. And of course, it's always important for us to use sustainable materials and to provide, of course, a fair trade and all these things behind, you know, like what a sustainable fashion brand does with their artisans.
That is fantastic. So you're taking up from the responsible production and, you know, taking care that everything from the supply chains becomes is transparent and traceable. From your end, in this case, I'm going to start with Josephine. How do you take the UN SDGs addressing to your work with animal protection?
So our mission with the brand Josephine Liljeqvist and our software system, Responsible System, as Marielle mentioned, we're working to improve global animal protection. So we're roughly starting by addressing two goals, which is number 2, no hunger, and 12, that was mentioned, more sustainable production and consumption. But also when I started this brand in 2015, I actually, in research, I went to the UN to figure out, okay, why is not animal protection and animal welfare involved in the SDGs? And after quite a lot of research, I figured out that, okay, well, animal protection is not highlighted. So something that we're working on as a project is actually an 18th goal to say that it's impossible to reach a functional and sustainable world if we do not involve animal protection and animal welfare as a key to a functional planet. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're working on 2, but we're also working on 1 that could kind of link into all the other 17.
And what kind of action you have been taking for implementing this 18? I saw some activities you did in Sweden. Did you go to the legislation and request some initiative? Tell us more about that.
Well, that was 18. I was invited to the Swedish Parliament, but and that was because in order to create these goals, we need to have a more transparent way of showing data, because we want to basically create a new price model for industrial farming that rewards kindness. And in order to reach this one, we needed to have some help from the government. And at that specific time, we got this little award as well, which was beautiful. We got an honorary award for our work in trying to create better laws for the animals. And we also pushed, together with the Swedish Commerce, we created a new standard for Sweden on how to think when basically you're purchasing leather or animal productions. And together with Textile Exchange, we're working on a global one for bovine creatures.
That's fantastic. And Kim, in such sense, you can see that we have these brands, these ethical and sustainable brands, and also designers working with these actions moving forward, not only in the design phase, but also taking action, no? Like Josephine is doing, like Liz is doing. Your work is also working with these change makers and amplifying their voices through design. So I would like to know, how do you connect that with the Sustainable Development Goals in your work?
I'm obviously also supporting only sustainable and responsible brands. So that means that I'm only working with brands that also comply with SDG number 12. And what I'm doing, for example, is doing editorials where I curate different labels and just show what's available in the market, and that it can be cool, it can be sexy, it can be fashionable, and that makes consumers consume more responsible, which also counts into number 12. Another aspect, I think what Ruby also said is really important, is number 5, gender equality. since in the supply chain of fashion, 80% of garment workers are females, including young males, young children as well. But either way, for me, feminism, and specifically having been in Sweden, is such a strong force to me that I'm always trying to support female entrepreneurs, female-owned labels, migrant female labels, any sort of that. And then obviously 17 as well, with partnerships and collaborations. It's, for me, really important to give my voice to those brands that, for example, Neonate as well, and show that sustainable fashion can compete with commercial fashion in terms of aesthetics and everything.
And that is so important. Collaboration right now, community, and at the same time, as you say, be aligned with what you're working with. And number 12 is one of the also main sustainable development goals that we see around in fashion. And in this sense, when we talk with you, Zika, how do you align your work with the sustainable development goals?
Yeah, so since I am somewhat like him, I don't manufacture, I'm not a fashion brand. Instead, I work with sustainable fashion brands, quite a lot of them through my different organizations. And the way I see it, honestly, I think sustainable fashion should be able to hit most of, if not all of, the SDGs. I was interviewing Claire, who's the founder of Kingdom, one of the brands that I work with, the other day, and she was telling me how her brand meets, I think, 15 of the goals. And I really think that most of the brands I work with are probably in line with that. I think some of the ones that specifically are important to me that I bring into my organizations are, of course, number one, poverty, and that's through, fair trade, which is a really key component to sustainable fashion in my view. Number 5, gender equality. Women are disproportionately impacted by the fashion industry and its exploitation. So fashion has an amazing opportunity to change that. Number 8, decent work and economic growth. Decent work, it's amazing that doesn't have to be a goal, but especially in fashion, that is a goal. It's not the norm. And so, yes, number 12, as we've discussed, number 17, partnerships. But I really think fashion has the opportunity to encompass all of them. And I'm really fortunate that I get to work with brands who, in one way or another, are doing almost all of it.
And this is what is important. Very nice contribution and examples of how you can connect the sustainable development goals to sustainable fashion. Thank you so much for your contribution to each of you, for the change that you're making and the inspiration you are to me, to the communities, and to the world. So I would like to now invite you to follow their work. You can find it here in their Instagram. So everybody take a screenshot right now and follow Bit and Real, Hetnika, Liliavis, and Kinder Larson. And so I promise that you will get inspired. And if you want to connect to each of them, they are very open. They have guided me a lot through this process in a slow fashion world. And I'm so thankful to have you today in the panel and hope to collaborate again anytime soon. So now, next up, we have a panel again with Ruby Veridiano about human-centered strategies in sustainability. So be sure to stick around and keep watching. We appreciate everybody that is still tuning in. So if you're enjoying this program so far, we warmly invite you to support the Sustainable Fashion, San Francisco Sustainable Fashion Week International movement via the donation link in the chat box. This has been a non-profit event, and we are looking forward for collaborating with more and more change makers today. So see you later. Athena, any questions from the public or something? Because I'm pretty sure that we are good on time.
Yes, we are good on time, and we have the next panel ready to go. And we do have some questions, and they're pretty in-depth questions. So like I said, we would probably have another group where we're going to record some of the answers and go from there, because some people want to start their own sustainable fashion companies. They're wanting to know how to do that and getting advice, how to reach out to the larger population, because a lot of people don't know about what they can do as a consumer that's not in the fashion industry. So really educating the population as a whole, that's going to be another large question to answer. And also, if Liz, when she gets back, if you can share our social media links inside of the chat, people want to know, how do they share out? So once you're out of the room and you're in the chat, if you want to go ahead and share that with everyone, that would be great. So what we're going to do is we're going to start up the next video and bring on Ruby, and her group is ready to go. So thank you very much to everyone for joining and being on today. So we'll see you later.
Ciao, thank you.
Yeah, stick around. Ruby's gonna
Hello.
Hello.